Greetings to all, and we appreciate your attendance today. So let's start our session with a great quotation. It's a quote by Mahatma Gandhi: "Where there is love, there is life." A very good afternoon to all the guests and dignitaries. In this capacity as your host for the worldwide webinar on unmarried couples, I, Vikas Yadav, the host, would like to take this opportunity to extend a hearty greetings to each and every one of you. It gives me a great pleasure to extend a warm hello to each and every one of you gathered here today. It is a huge honor for us to have someone of this caliber here whose involvement on the topic of unmarried couples adds so much value to you. So, welcome to today's webinar, Challenging the Norms, Embarrassing Love. Let's dive into the modern dynamic of unmarried couples and what it means to redefine relationship in today's world. Before I proceed further, let me take a brief moment for the introduction of my organization. SEMS Welfare Foundation, a registered non-profit organization, is dedicated to social impact across various sectors. We focus on education, particularly skill development and entrepreneurship. Through our initiative, Digi Saksham, we have created training programs in IT, finance, retail, and entrepreneurship, impacting over 6,000 individuals. We are currently upskilling inmates in Haryana jails and collaborating with universities and colleges. We have partnered with banks to place over 1,500 candidates in jobs. FemLeads, another SEMS initiative, empowers women through workshops and stories of successful female entrepreneurship. We conduct programs on digital literacy, marketing, and career development, reaching over 1,000 women across multiple states. This initiative recently reached a milestone of 100 women actively involved. In just short a time, SEMS has established itself as a force of positive change, equipping individuals with skills for employment and promoting women's leadership in various industries. Now, let me take this wonderful occasion to publicly present and welcome Dr. Aarti Sahu, the keynote speaker for the today's international webinar. Dr. Aarti Sahu is a consultant obstetrician and gynecologist and runs her own establishment, Shahu Wellbeing Clinic at Rohtak, Haryana. She is an alumni of the prestigious PGIMS Rohtak, from where she did both her graduation and post-graduation. She was awarded the coveted Pfizer Best Medical Graduate Award in the year 1998. Dr. Aarti was also a gold medalist in her post-graduation. She has more than 15 years of experience as a practicing gynecologist. Her areas of special interest are adolescent sexual and reproductive health, especially PCOS and infertility. Dr. Aarti is a medical advisor to SHARE Foundation, a non-profit organization committed to expand awareness, capacity building, and provide trustworthy inclusive healthcare for the rural population of India. She is also a frequent speaker at local education institution and is committed to impart sexuality education in young adults. Apart from being a medical professional, Dr. Aarti believes in a holistic approach to health and wellness. She is a diploma in women empowerment and development from IGNU, a certified counselor and ACT therapist. She is also a certified EFT practitioner. She is a storyteller, motivational speaker, and lifestyle coach, and runs a YouTube channel, Let's Talk Dr. Aarti, blends spirituality with medical practice to bring about healing for her patient. There are many gems and diamonds in the world, and one of them is here today to help us build the event. With this note, I, Vikas Yadav, on behalf of SEMS Welfare Foundation, would like to give my heartiest welcome to Dr. Aarti Sahu ma'am with a huge round of applause for joining us today. Your presence has added to a significance to this event, and we are genuinely honored to you here, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Vikas, for such a generous introduction that you've given me. And I'm really thankful to SIMS for giving me a beautiful platform. When I spoke to Lakshmi, you're in charge, my request was to come up with a topic which is so socially relevant, yet it is so difficult to find a platform wherein we can discuss such a topic, because largely such a topic is considered taboo still in the society. But since these couples exist and we need to speak about them and the problems that these couples face, and really, I'm really thankful to the organization for providing a platform for the same. So, not taking much of your time, because I have prepared a big presentation as I was told by Lakshmi. So I will not go much into the introduction part, because Vikas has already highlighted about me. But still, this slide is very important, because I want to highlight why pick up this topic as a gynecologist. Being a gynecologist, I'm exposed to human sexuality. I'm exposed to problems related to human sexuality. And this got me interested in gender studies and problem of women. So I did a course, diploma in women empowerment and development from IGNOU, to be able to better understand my patients, to be able to better understand how to help them not only in their sexual and reproductive health, but in their mainstream life problems as well. So, having said that, I come across couples across the demographic. I have couples who are married. I have couples who are young couples and still awaiting marriage. And these couples are going along for a very long time. So I'm exposed to a variety of couples. And that is why it is very important for me to be able to discuss this topic with you. So the topic for today is the unmarried couple. And as Vikas has introduced the topic, this topic is not a mainstream topic, but is going to become a mainstream because lots and lots of couple are opting not to get married or get married at a later stage in life. And that is why it is very important to discuss what are the motivations of these couples, how these coupleships and these partnerships work, and what are the major areas of challenge that these couples generally face. So, in India, where divorce is looked down upon, it is very, very difficult to get a divorce. Not only it is a social taboo, otherwise also legally also it becomes a major problem getting a divorce in India. So young couples are seeing a domestic partnership or a live-in relationship as an easy solution to first get into a arrangement where they can test the compatibility of a relationship and then they go ahead and get married. Still, in spite of being very, very rampant in the metropolitan cities, it is largely considered a cultural taboo in India because in India, sexuality is generally practiced and sanctioned only among married couples. Not that people are not indulging in sexual behavior outside marriage, but traditional attitudes and moralities still have a very strong influence on the society. And people look at the couples who are living out of marriage, having intimate relations out of marriage as a cultural taboo. So, how do we define an unmarried couple? An unmarried couple is a live-in couple is one which enters into a domestic partnership, and these come together in a committed, sexually intimate relationship, and legally they are granted quite a few rights and benefits which are given to married heterosexual couples. So, before we understand what is an unmarried couple, it is very, very important to understand what a marriage is. I'm not going into the legal nitty-gritties of a marriage, but by large, in a marriage, we consider it to be a sacrosanct or a religious act. And all of us know that in the society, the smallest unit of the society is a couple, which then goes on to procreate in the family and then it becomes a family unit. So, marriage is the beginning of the smallest unit of the society, that is the couple, which holds the future, and it links the past, present, and future generations all in one. So society considers it as a social bond, and it is supposed to be the strongest of bonds which are present socially. According to sociology, marriage is a sanctioned relationship between two people. I would emphasize the word sanctioned, and if you can see the slide, I put it in a different color because the sanctity comes from three aspects of the marriage. Number one, it is a legally recognized contract between two people. Secondly, religion also binds. People go through certain rules, customs, traditions in the marriage ceremony, and religion also helps in defining the marriage. And then there is involvement of the society, involvement of the community, wherein these get the couple together. And this provides the framework for future procreation, for emotional ties, and ties of the family within the community. So that is how marriage is defined as far as sociology is concerned. A live-in relationship, although legally acceptable nowadays in society, is only bound by the commitment between two individuals. That is, neither the society nor the religion sanctify such a relationship. It is the individual commitment of the two individuals who are thinking about coming together. Plus, there is a little bit framework of legality, which is it makes it a legally acceptable situation, and that is how we are about to discuss that. That is how a marriage differs from a live-in relationship. Now, who is entering a live-in relationship? If you look at the demographics, we find a wide variety of people who are entering into a live-in relationship. The first is a young couple who intends to marry in the future but lives in either for testing compatibility in the relationship or because they feel that it will be easier to date if they are both living at the same place or if they have to meet their financial and career goals before they get married. So these are the situations where the young couple goes into a live-in relationship. Second kind of a couple is a couple who has chosen not to get married at all. This couple is not in the waiting. This couple is a couple which is choosing not to get married. They may or they may not have kids during their live-in relationship. That is a choice that they make. The third category of couple is a very, very interesting couple. These consist of people who have already been into a relationship. Either they are separated, they're divorced, or widowed, and they do not wish to enter into the matrimonial alliance again. They may have children from previous relationships, or they may also consider having children together, but generally the age of the couple is such that they do not generally go for kids in the relationship. So if you see, these are the three categories of couples who are entering into a domestic alliance, a domestic partnership, which we call a live-in relationship. Now, in order to understand the live-in relationship and its concept, we have to understand what are the various dynamics which are working in a live-in relationship. It depends on so many things. What is the duration of the relationship? What is the degree of sharing of the household that the couple is doing? What are the financial arrangements and whether they are pooling the resources together or not? What are the arrangements for the domestic things, especially the domestic chores that are to be performed? Is the level of commitment something similar like a marriage? Do they think of producing kids in their relationship without getting married? And how are they socializing with other people? So these are the various variables and factors that we have to take into consideration when we are trying to understand what a live-in relationship is and what the concept is. Now, coming to that, why are couples getting into a live-in relationship? What is so lucrative about it? So there are certain undeniable benefits of a live-in partnership. Now, these are, first of all, you can know whether you are compatible at all. I mean, so many divorces are happening because they are incompatibility issues. That is one of the major causes of divorces in India nowadays. So you come to know whether the couple is at all compatible or not. The second is when a couple is living together, especially in India where roles are defined in a marriage and there are jobs which a male is supposed to do and there are jobs which a female is supposed to do. In such a condition, what is important is when the couple live together, they can have a sharing of responsibilities which is not gendered in nature. The couple gets to decide who does what and how the finances are going to be allocated. So that is another very beautiful aspect of this relationship. Thirdly, the four major areas of conflict between any couple are finances, sex, relatives, तुम्हारे रिश्तेदार मेरे रिश्तेदार, and finally how the kids are being brought up in the family. But when a couple gets to live in a relationship prior to marriage, they can be aware of each other's sexual appetites, how they are panned together sexually, and if a couple finds that the sexual life is not fulfilling, then they can part ways without resorting to measures like a divorce. And finally, if you can make through some challenges together, it is always a proof that the partnership is going to work. So there are certain benefits of getting into a live-in relationship prior to marriage. Now, what are the various lessons a couple learns in a live-in relationship? It is very interesting. There is a lot of learning to be there in a live-in relationship, and a couple can learn so many things about their individual styles and how they operate as a couple. The first important thing is how they manage finances. Two people may have absolutely different viewpoints about how they intend to spend their finances, how they intend to pool them. So it is about my money, your money, and our money. And that is how generally couples come to some kind of an arrangement, and then they do some expenses together, then savings together. So managing finances is one of the key areas that a live-in relationship teaches the couple. Second is division of chores. As I mentioned, in India, in a typical Hindu marriage, a typical Indian marriage, the division of chores inside the family is generally gendered in nature. You will find that there are certain man jobs and certain woman jobs, but in a live-in relationship, who does what can be decided by the couple themselves. themselves, and this gives a great degree of flexibility. And men are also much more contributory towards the household as far as the labor that goes into running the household goes. Then we are in a generation where everybody is about privacy and space. Each child in the family nowadays is demanding their own room. And suddenly, if you are married and you're supposed to spend your entire life with another person in just one room, sometimes it becomes difficult. So, live in relationship teaches us how to cohabit in a harmonious way. And that in itself is a major learning in a relationship. Again, we are people, we are human beings. Everybody comes from a different opinion, different viewpoint, and there are going to be points of disagreement between two people. So, what we learn in a live in relationship is how to resolve conflict harmoniously and how to convey our needs and boundaries in a relationship. So, good communication takes a relationship very far. Now, what is the biggest attraction? The biggest attraction of young couples or older couples to a live in relationship is that there is a large degree of flexibility and freedom in this kind of relationship. Unlike traditional marriages, live in relationships give you a sense of freedom. There is a sense of mental liberation because you know if things are not going to work, we can walk away. But then this also doesn't let sometimes the couple to be as committed to solve their problems. But flexibility and freedom is one of the biggest advantage. The second great advantage is that we all know in India, generally what happens is that the girl relocates and moves towards her in-laws family or with her husband to a different place. And once she is going in a joint family setup especially, there is a lot of societal pressure on the young couple. She has to perform her duties as a wife, as a mother, as a daughter-in-law, as a sister-in-law. So many new relationships are added to her bouquet, and for a young girl, sometimes it becomes very overwhelming, and she hardly gets the time to know her present partner because she is so much in demand by the other members of the household also. With a live-in relationship, the couple has more autonomy and they feel as if they're more in control of their life. So that gives you immense time to explore each other in peace without the added pressure of other family members or other societal pressures, which otherwise are coming in a traditional Indian marriage. What is the biggest downside of live-in relationships? There are plus sides, but then there are two major downsides to it. As of now, as of today, there is no set legal framework to define a live-in relationship, and this leaves partners in a lot of confusion because somebody may be wanting a marriage at the end of the live-in relationship as an outcome, and the other partner may not be wanting a marriage and may just want to continue like that. So this kind of expectation and uncertainty about the future gives a lot of insecurity and anxiety to partners sometimes. And any breakdown in communication can result in the breakdown of a relationship. So, since there is no social pressure, religious pressure, and proper legal framework, it is only the commitment of the couple which can carry through this relationship. Otherwise, the general factors which are there to support the relationship are missing. So sometimes couple also may delay the process of marriage, or they may delay the commitment process because they are not very sure about how to proceed ahead after cohabitation. So having said that, now we come to what is the legal status of a live-in relationship in India. So I have already discussed with you what a live-in partnership is and how it is different from a marriage. And I have also explained why the couples across demographics are opting for this kind of an arrangement and what are the minuses and pluses. What is now we need to discuss what is the legal status of a live-in couple as of today in India. Now, if we see, a lot of rulings in the courts have given acknowledgement to live-in relationships. There are no direct references to live-in relationships in the constitution, but a lot of court rulings have upheld the rights of these unmarried couples, and these are known as the cohabitation rights. So the Supreme Court has said that an adult couple has a right to live together without marriage. Now, this is a clearly in favor of a live-in relationship, and it shows that the court considers the live-in relationship valid in the eyes of the law. Again, the parties in the live-in relationship are protected under the Domestic Violence Act. So this is not a direct proof that they are acknowledging a live-in relationship, but putting the dependents in a relationship under the protection of Domestic Violence Act and the Right to Maintenance Act itself shows that the court somewhere considers these relationships to be of legal nature. Again, under the Indian Constitution, if you see, Article 21 of the Indian Constitution protects the right to privacy of this couple and says that there is a personal liberty of unmarried couples and live-in couples to stay together. So, as I said again, there is no particular legal framework which marks it, but different judgments at different times have upheld the rights of couples to get into alliance without getting into marriage. So, as of today, the live-in relationships are taken to be legal relationships, and these people also have legal rights which they can exert if their rights are hindered in any way. So we call live-in relationships are covered under the common law marriages. Now, what is a common law marriage? A common law marriage is wherein the couple holds itself together in the society, something similar to spouses. They behave like husbands and wives in the society, even though they are not married, formally married, but they hold themselves as a unit, as a couple in the society. Secondly, they must be of the legal age to marry. That means a boy should be over the age of 21, the girl more than 18, and nowadays we are trying to get changes to that age also. So the couple should be more than 21 years of age and should be at an age where they can legally consent to get married. Third, they should be qualified to enter into a legal marriage. That means they are unmarried, they are socially and legally available for a relationship. They're not separated or married to other partners, but they are either divorced or they are unmarried and can enter into a legal marriage. And they have been living together as husband and wife, as spouses for a significant period of time. If all these four criteria are fulfilled, we take the couple to be married under the common law marriage, and a live-in relationship or a domestic partnership falls under this common law marriage. Now, these couples also face a lot of social and cultural challenges. And the biggest challenge of all is lack of acceptance by the family members of the couple involved themselves. A lot of times, the family members who are set in the traditional mold, they fail to acknowledge such a couple, and the support that otherwise is available to a normal couple in an Indian marriage is not available to these adults, and that is why they feel as if the society has left them to their own means. And again, from the extended family, from the relatives, from the neighborhood, there is a lot of judgment against these couples. So the kind of support that is extended to a normal traditional Indian marriage is not extended to these couples. Another issue is these couples have difficulty in finding house. It is very difficult because a lot of society is still biased towards renting out homes to unmarried people, and even getting a place in the hotel sometimes becomes a problem for an unmarried couple. I'll be covering these topics later on. Again, cultural barriers are there because the family expects to have a traditional marriage, and then after traditional marriage, they expect the couple to have kids, and these couples follow a different trajectory. So there are cultural barriers also, and the family expectations are not met, and a lot of societal judgment going on for these couples. Now, these couples face a lot of practical challenges. Unmarried couples have unique challenges which otherwise the married couples don't have. And the biggest of them is housing discrimination. A lot of people find it very difficult to find an accommodation, and especially the landlords are not very open to renting out their places to the unmarried couples. Now, also the difficulty comes when they are traveling, or they have to stay in a hotel, or they have to go to practice their sexuality in some private space. Getting a space in a hotel also becomes a problem sometimes. And the third most important is public display of affection. That is not unique to the unmarried couple also. Sometimes married couples also get into trouble if there is overt display of public affection. So one by one, we will be coming to these problems. What are the various problems that these couples face? Now, coming to housing discrimination. If we look at law, live-in couples have the right to reside anywhere in the country. As adults as citizens of India, they cannot be denied the right to accommodation based on their marital status. And this has been covered under Article 19(1)(e) of the Indian Constitution. But having said that, practically speaking, a live-in relationship is still considered a cultural taboo, and a lot of landlords may refuse to rent out their places to unmarried couples. Now, there are certain useful tips that you can follow to make your life easy, and those tips are: look for an independent property, look for a flat, look for an accommodation which is a standalone. You don't share that space with your landlord or somebody else. It is always better to go for an independent property because then there is lesser interference for this couple and they lesser answerability also. Secondly, it is always better to give your ID proofs. Both the people involved should give their ID proofs and get their names on the lease. And better still, if they can deposit a cohabitation agreement also to their landlord. And the third most important thing is not to overtly get into public display of affection and catch attention of the society people, because otherwise you will be inviting unnecessary trouble to yourself. So it is better not to resort to any indecent behavior in the public. Now, I just mentioned the word cohabitation agreement, and I would like to highlight what a cohabitation agreement is. In India, we do not have any kind of prenuptial agreement. A prenuptial agreement covers if suppose a parties are married and they intend to get separated or there is a divorce. A prenuptial agreement has pre-decided rules about how the separation is going to take place. So that kind of an activity can be done for a couple which is unmarried, and this legal document outlines the rules for an unmarried couple's living arrangements and also in case that the partnership breaks up. So this document can cover what all? It covers the ownership rights. First of all, if this couple buys some property or have some assets, it will tell us who actually is the owner of the asset. How to divide the income and expenses in the household, that also can be covered in the cohabitation agreement. How to distribute the new assets. Any assets which are acquired during the time of the partnership, suppose there is a separation, a cohabitation agreement includes how will that be divided. Suppose they buy a fridge and a television, then it highlights that the fridge will be taken away by the boy and the refrigerator will be taken away by the girl. So how to distribute the new assets is also outlined in this document. Then they also have a buyout arrangement. Suppose a couple together buys a car or buys a new home and they in the end they separate, then the cohabitation agreement has provisions where they mention that if at all one of the persons is ready to buy the other person out, how much amount the other person has to pay. Just in case there is a job relocation and the partnership breaks, it contains provisions for that also and for resolving disputes which may occur during the course of the relationship. So coming to most interesting, most often asked question by unmarried couples is whether an unmarried couple can stay in a hotel. So marital status is not important for staying in a hotel. In India, if you are adults, you can go and take a room together. And most of the hotels require that both the guests should be at least more than 18 years of age and they should be able to deposit a valid ID proof. Not only one person, both the boy and the girl have to deposit a valid ID proof. A lot of people are facing problems if they are taking hotels up in the same city. Sometimes the hotels may deny if you are in the same city, but if you're going to some good establishment, a clean hotel, especially a couple-friendly hotel, so these hotels are very willing to offer you accommodation in the same city also, only if you deposit a valid ID proof. Another thing that can be done is that you can make bookings online and see up the rules of the hotel or the accommodation beforehand, whether they're open to having unmarried couples, so as you can prevent the harassment that may occur to you. Then under Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, an unmarried couple it has a right to privacy. Nobody can come and disturb them if they're in their room and if they're not engaging in any indecent behavior in the public. So they have legal rights to. क्या डर रहता है कि कई बार when you're in the hotel or there is a raid or something, or sometimes the police officials are involved, they may come to you and they may try to harass you or threaten you that they'll tell your parents or they'll call people from your family. So at this time, there are certain things that you can do to keep yourself safe. Number one, do not step outside your room. If it is possible, record the conversation that you're having with the official. look at the badge, the ID number of the official, and take a note of it, that who is talking to you and what designation the other person is. Very respectfully, if at all required, produce your valid ID proofs. If such a person threatens you that they will call your family members, tell them that you know your rights. And if at all such a call is made, you can take legal actions against these people if they threaten your right to privacy. So these are certain important tips that a young couple, an unmarried couple, can keep in mind. Do not panic. People harass you only if you panic, if you show anxiety. If you know your rights, if you're calm and composed about your behavior, if you're collected, and if you have the valid ID proofs, nobody in the world can come and disturb you and disturb your privacy. And it's always better to go to some good establishment. Young couples generally have paucity of money and they book hotels by the hour. So do not go into shady establishments which are giving accommodation by the hour, because these are in cahoots with dirty police agents or other people who may harass you, and you may have a very harrowing experience with these people. So it is always better to go to clean establishments, take a valid ID proof, and better to go to couple friendly hotels. So I hope all the questions that you have in mind regarding travel and hotel stays are answered. Now coming to the public display of affection. Showing love is not a problem. But how much is right and how much is wrong, there is no line drawn. So the excessive show of affection in the public is considered a criminal offense under section 294 of the Indian Penal Code. But the problem is, what is obscene and what is not depends on the person who is judging you. Is never dependent on you, and no clear cut guidelines have been given what is right or what is wrong. So PD can include acts such as holding hands in the public, hugging or kissing, that can be there, but these are very subjective in nature, very vague, and depends on your cultural setting and on the mindset of the person who is judging you or who is taking action against you. But if you are caught and you are thought to be guilty of this kind of a behavior, if obscenity involved has been established, then there is imprisonment for up to 3 months, and or there may be a fine along with it. So, but the difficult part with this is that the police can arrest anyone accused under this section without a warrant. So, my request to all couples, be married, be unmarried, is to restrict public display of affection. It has to be in a way that you're not calling unnecessary attention to yourself, because you can be booked under section 294 without a warrant, and the punishment I have already mentioned is up to 3 months with or without a fine. Another very important area of challenge for this couple is inheritance. And this is where legally a domestic partnership is different from a marriage. In a marriage, if a spouse passes away, the other spouse automatically gets all the rights to property or to whatever inheritance is there. But in case of a domestic partnership, there is a lack of inheritance rights, especially until and unless there is something mentioned in a will. So unless and until there are legal instruments like wills or nominations, the live-in partner does not have the right to inheritance automatically. So this is an area, if you remember, Rajesh Khanna used to live with his partner Anju Mahindru, and he was still married to his wife Dimple Kabadia. At the end of when Rajesh Khanna died, the inheritance was not given to the live-in partner. Anju Mahindru fought a long battle in courts, claiming that she had been the one who had been living, but the rights were transferred to the wife and the legal heirs, and that is how a domestic partnership becomes different from a marriage. But nowadays, there are certain rulings also coming wherein the inheritance has also been taken into consideration. So, but automatic inheritance of the property is not present in case of a domestic partnership. Coming to property rights, a unmarried couple, like any two Indian citizens, has a right to own the property has a right to own a joint property, but it is not automatically assumed to be equal. For example, a person puts 70% of the amount and the other person puts 30% of the amount, and these couple buy a house together and they separate eventually. In that case, the property will not be divided half and half in case of domestic partnership. In such a case, whatever amount the person has contributed, the share in the property will be in accordance to whatever amount has been contributed by the two people who are there in the relationship. So again, this is unlike a marriage wherein if a joint property has been bought, then both the partners have equal share into the property, even if one of them is not paying for the property. All the property that is acquired during the relationship is automatically assumed to be equal partnership, but that is not the case in case of a domestic partnership, where you have to show proof to the court that how much of investment you have made. And it is always better, if you buy something, keep the receipts, keep the financial records of whatever you're buying and how much money you're putting into that, so that in case the partnership breaks, you can have at least you don't end up losing the money or the finance or the property that you've already invested in. Now, coming to co-parenting and rights of children, a lot of couples are opting for not getting married, and some of them are opting for getting children inside the relationship. So, initially, it was thought to be that only children which are produced in the marriage, which is a legally, culturally, religiously sanctified marriage, are considered legitimate. But the court came to this conclusion that children are not at fault. How their parents choose to indulge in their sexuality does not affect the legitimacy of the children. So, all children born to unmarried couples are also considered legitimate as of now. As far as the inheritance rights go, a child which is born in the family, all the self-acquired properties during the course of the relationship, the child has inheritance rights to that property. But the child is not able to claim any ancestral property that the two people involved may have, especially which is a co-parcenary property. So that is how the children born under a marriage are different from children having rights in their to a couple who's in a domestic partnership. So, like children born in a marriage, these children have right to maintenance under Section 125 of the CPC, and they are also protected under the Domestic Violence Act. Suppose such a partnership breaks. Now, how is the custody of this child shared? Now, the custody is based on the principle that the court takes the best interests of the child into consideration. It is similar to what is in the marriage. The priority is the well-being and the welfare of the child, and the custody arrangements are made in such a way that it should be of best interest to the child. So it depends on various factors. What is the age of the child? What are the physical and emotional needs of the child? A smaller child will be given to the mother, and the father will have to pay the maintenance to the wife as well, to the female partner as well as the child. It takes into account the stability of each parent's home. Now, if they separate, then the court takes into consideration how stable the parental home is going to be. So, in such situations, courts deal as same manner as in marriages as far as the custody rights of the children are concerned. Vikas, I'm audible, I hope.
Yeah, ma'am, you are.
Great. So the biggest challenge to these children in live in relationship is social acceptance. These children are generally not even accepted by the grandparents, by the chacha tau in the family, because and they do not get the kind of support generally a child has. They have grandparents, they have their uncles and aunts. So a lot of these children are deprived of the support and network that generally is available to a child which is born in a traditional marriage. The second problem these children face is of bullying in the school. A lot of children and especially teachers also are not sensitive to the needs of the children who are born in a domestic partnership. They may call them out in the classroom, they may shame them, they may guilt them, they may bully them. So social acceptance of these children becomes a problem, and this child is so small that it doesn't understand the difference between a married couple and an unmarried couple. Uske liye, they are parents, they are father and mother, they are one team. But the society rubs it off these children that you have been born out of a wedlock and you are illegitimate or you're not wanted. So this kind of a narrative is given to these children, and social acceptance of these children becomes a major problem. Now, another sector which is very, very important is the financial and healthcare planning. Especially, as I told you, there is an end of the spectrum in which we have couples who come together after they are separated, divorced, to spend their old age together. So these couples generally have problems in case they are not putting in the right nominations and they are not putting in the right wordings. अब क्या problems आ सकती हैं इनको? Just in case they have not nominated the other person in the health insurance policy, the partner is devoid of benefits, which is automatic in cases of spouses and dependents. So make sure if you are in a partnership and you want to share healthcare rights, then nominate your partner in the healthcare insurance policies. Second very important problem area is sometimes these couples are living far away from their legal heirs, from their children. And suppose suddenly there is an emergency or there is an accident or there is a sudden surgery which is required. It is very important to make right decisions, keep it in black and white and sign that document wherein you give the right to your partner to make decisions in case of any healthcare emergencies. So it is especially important for the older age couples who come together for companionship that they give each other written rights to make decisions in case there is an emergency. Unmarried couple can also open bank accounts. They can have a joint account. But again, very important is that you give instructions either through a cohabitation agreement about how the distribution of the assets that are joint is going to be, or you can give instructions to the bank also that just in case one of the partner passes away, how is the distribution of the assets going to be, who are going to be the nominees to those, because it's not like marriage that you have a joint account and the other person becomes the owner. You have to explicitly mention who gets what, who is the legal heir in case one of the partners dies. So everything has to be put into black and white because this couple is not a married couple and one has to give explicit instructions either through a cohabitation agreement or to the bank itself. Now, as I mentioned, in a traditional marriage, there are a lot of supporting factors which may also prove to be confounding factors. But presence of religion, presence of society, presence of community, legal sanctions, they all somehow help to solidify the commitment of a couple. Whereas in a domestic partnership, it is just the will, the love and commitment of the couple itself that carries the relationship forward. So in a way, this kind of arrangement is only for a couple who has excellent communication and are evolved enough and mature enough to understand that it is their personal commitment which is going to carry the relationship forward. So they have to have a very, very strong foundation. They have to have feelings of mutual trust and respect, and they have to have excellent communication, especially in the face of a conflict. They have to have the skills to negotiate a conflict and reach to some common agreement or resolution of the conflict. So it is very important for this couple to develop a very solid foundation and very good communication in order to manage the issues which are generally there in all the relationships. So my final thoughts regarding this is that there are several challenges to live in relationships in India, especially the lack of the proper legal framework. We are having indirect references to their legality, but there is no legal framework which defines the live-in relationship, because when the constitution was written, marriage was the only prevalent place where sexuality could be practiced. Indian society itself is so closed and it's not fully prepared to accept the concept of cohabitation of couples before marriage. So the society also needs to open up. This is nothing wrong. Two people living together and deciding not to get married and getting into intimate partnership is something between those two people. The society needs not frown upon it. And we need to amend the existing laws so that the concept of live-in relationship becomes more inclusive and these couples can have lesser society-based challenges and lesser stress on their own personal relationship. With this, I thank you so much for being so patient and attending this.
On
Thank you.
on the behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to express my hearty vote of thanks to our excellent and outstanding speaker, Dr. Aarti ma'am. Today, we got the opportunity to listen to an interesting and thought-provoking discussion on unmarried couples. The amount of expertise displayed by Aarti Sahu ma'am really enhanced and grabs our knowledge for the unmarried couples. Now, the chat window is open for the any queries and the question if our attendees have. You may either unmute yourself or drop your question in the chat box. Ma'am, before someone else asks, I have a question regarding this. Ma'am, in generally in a living relationship, the most upcoming challenges, as it was in the presentation also, is the society, and in some of the case, parents also does not support this kind of relationship. So, what can the couples or what can they do to overcome or to support to take support from the parents or from the society? So, is there any methods to take the support from themselves?
See, that's a very important question. The first step that the couple can take is achieve financial independence, because your parents will question you lesser if you have resources at your hand and if you are able to make your decision. That is number one. Second, you need to have a solid foundation of relationship. If your parents see that you're doing well, you're happy together, you're thriving as a couple, eventually parents want children to be happy, so they will come around. Don't ask your parents for money for a live-in relationship, and build a good partnership. Build a good partnership wherein you have open communication with your partner. And I think with time, your parents generally do come around. So these are the two most important things that a couple needs to do in order to survive parental pressure. Yeah.
Also, ma'am, generally, if you see in nowadays, that's a modern era. Generally, student gets involved in love affairs from the school itself, from the standard
Mhm.
10th, 11th, 12th,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
by the time they get fully independent, by the time they get their graduation, they involve themselves in setting up in a very serious type of relationship, and
Mhm.
at that time they do not have that much of maturity to understand that what is actually right, what is actually not right. Sometimes they go for some not right partners, and they
Mhm.
also take some unwanted step that they do not do. So,
Mhm.
is there what are your ideas and what your suggestion you would like to give those couples that to be patient and to be choose at least be mature enough to be take that step, because it's a very big step in their life.
Because this is the most beautiful and most apt question that you've asked. In India, we hardly get into relationships before marriage. Even if we are, there are one or two maximum relationships, and then people do get married. And it is after marriage that they find out that they're not compatible either emotionally or mentally or physically. So getting into relationships is a very important part of growing up. Making mistakes is a very important part of growing up. Indian parents do not allow their children to make mistakes. And unless and until you make mistakes, how will you learn? But then there are certain mistakes you're not supposed to make. Those mistakes are having sex without protection. That is not a mistake, it's a stupidity. Number two, what is important is getting into substance abuse of any kind. That is not a mistake. That is again a stupidity. So if you are, getting into relationships and there is abuse, then you need to go and see what is wrong with the kind of partners that you're selecting. यहाँ इंडिया में शादी सभी करते हैं. It's almost a universal phenomena. पर आप देखेंगे कोई पेरेंट कोई स्कूल ये नहीं सिखाता कि पार्टनर का सिलेक्शन कैसे करें. So how are we selecting the partner? The young people, either they are attracted to somebody. If they get slightly more mature, then they will see whether they're mentally or emotionally compatible or not. And for the parents, how do they see हमारी बिरादरी का है कि नहीं, हमारे लिविंग स्टैंडर्ड के हिसाब का है कि नहीं, इनकी रसोई में वही सब कल्चर और खाना वही सब बनता है कि नहीं. सो पेरेंट्स गो आउटसाइड टू इनसाइड, कपल्स गो इनसाइड टू आउटसाइड. गलतियां कब होती हैं? जब आप अट्रैक्शन के बेस पे पार्टनरशिप में घुस जाते हैं. अट्रैक्शन इज अ वेरी फ्लीटिंग थिंग. थोड़े दिन रहेगा, सेक्सुअल एनर्जी थोड़े दिन रहेगा, then it will fizzle off. Only partnerships which are based on commitment, love, mutual trust and respect will take time. Do not rush towards a relationship. Do not take decisions, especially when your emotions are very clouded. So that is the advice that I'll give. And especially, yes, protection, again, very very must. Not getting into substance abuse, very must. Not getting into a toxic relationship is also very important. If at all you land up in a toxic partnership, it is always better to walk away from such a relationship.
Well, basically, the students or the younger generation of my age, they are confused between love, attraction, and infatuation. So, can you please tell them what the difference
Oh,
between all these three words? What
oh,
is love? What is attraction? What is infatuation?
Okay, this is a very important question that you asked. Attraction is what gets two people together. It gets two people. You may be mentally attracted to them. You may like their thoughts and ideas. You may be physically attracted to them. You like how they look, what you see in them. There may be emotional attraction. You may feel comfortable talking to them. So attraction comes in that form. Attraction is just a force which gets two people together, right? When we talk of another very important force which is operational in your age is lust, passion, because the hormones are running very high. You people want to explore your sexuality. So if you become physically attracted to somebody, then you want to go ahead and explore your sexuality also with that person. Again, that is, you have to recognize the fact that the attraction is chemical in nature, it is physical in nature, and this also doesn't last for a very, very long time. Coming to love, if at all you want to remember something about love, you have to remember is love is not a noun, it is a verb. Love is a verb. Love means respect. Love means sharing. Love means taking care of each other. When you reach that point in a relationship, then only you can call it love. Just a second, please. Adi, please don't rotate. पीछे से निकलो. So love is a verb. It is action. It is doing. It has got nothing with I love you. I mean, it's not just a fleeting emotion. So that part wherein you are caring for the other person's betterment, you are committed to their best, then you call दैट लव. उसको आने में बहुत टाइम लगता है. जिसको हम लव कहते हैं वो शादी के भी या रिलेशनशिप में बहुत बाद में जाके आता है. व्हेन यू स्टार्ट एक्सेप्टिंग द अदर पर्सन इवन फॉर द थिंग्स दैट यू मे नॉट लाइक अदरवाइज, that is when love comes into order.
Thank you, ma'am. Your presentation was truly outstanding. You
Thank you so
explained the
much.
topic with such a clarity and depth that you left no room for furthermore questions. It was very comprehensive. The way
Thank you
you
so
broke everything down made complex ideas seem very down, I mean, effortless to grasp. It's a testament to communicate it so effectively. Thank you for sharing your knowledge in such an engaging and impactful way. Once again, I express my gratitude and thanks to Dr. Aarti ma'am for sparing time from our hectic schedule to impart information to us. We are speechless by your invaluable presence at this session. Now, we shall abide by our time for further such workshops in order to advance both of our personal and collective knowledge. Additionally, I want to thank everyone in the audience for their active involvement and presence. The event is considerably more meaningful because of your participation.